Good evening. Well, it's wonderful to be here. Thank you all for joining us for tonight's town hall and CA 41. I want to thank my co-host, Congresswoman Barragan, for joining me this evening. I also want to thank our host of the evening, our good friends Yusuf and Fazia, for having us here. I have the honor of representing California's 31st Senate District and representing over 1 million people in our communities. And we're going to jump right in if that is okay with you all. Yeah. California's economy is powered by everyday working people, from farmers to garment workers, janitors, hospitality workers, small business owners, to builders. And right now, they're being hit with rising costs from Washington's reckless trade war. I want to be clear, when the federal government slaps tariffs on goods, it's not foreign countries that pay, you do. Tariffs are just taxes on working families. A 10% tariff on global goods, 145% tariff on China. That means higher prices at the checkout line, instability in the markets, and billions wiped from your retirement accounts. Meanwhile, California's budget is also on the line. When markets crash, our public schools, healthcare, and roads also take a hit. California is the 5th largest economy in the world. A global leader in agriculture, clean tech, clean energy. We send $83 billion more to Washington than we get back. So when bad policy comes from the federal level, we are not waiting for permission to protect our own. That is why today Governor Newsom and Attorney General Rob Bonta issued a challenge to Trump's unlawful tariffs he's imposing without congressional approval. California stands to lose billions, which is why we are not standing idle. While Trump wages war on the environment and education, California is investing in our future. We directed $28 billion toward the cap and trade program to fight climate change and create jobs, already generating over 30,000 good-paying jobs in communities that have been too far ignored. Millions of Californians will see a $137 credit on their utility bill this month. That is what smart policy looks like, real relief when you need it most. And while Trump tries to abolish the Department of Education, California is expanding opportunity. Over half of all CSU and UC students now attend tuition free. We're not just resisting, we're rebuilding stronger, a fair economy from the ground up. But this fight is bigger than tariffs or budget cuts. It's about the soul of our democracy. The Trump administration is ignoring court orders, attacking due process, and strengthening and threatening to deport U.S. citizens to foreign prisons, including students from UC Riverside, as well as students across the country exercising their First Amendment right to protest, such as activist Mahmoud Khalil. We've seen legal residents detained, veterans fired, birthright citizenship challenged. And these are not hypotheticals, these are happening right now. And as Senator Schiff warned us today, there will be more cases like Kilmar Abrigo Garcia. There will be more illegal deportations, more errors that this administration makes. And so our democracy is disappearing before our eyes. Democracy isn't self-sustaining. It takes vigilance, it takes courage, and participation. Our rights, freedom of speech, due process, the right to vote are not partisan. They are American, and we must defend them. And when we believe in democracy, we must speak up and speak boldly. Because if it can happen to any one of these individuals, it can happen to you. In the fields, in our classrooms, in our cities, fear is rising. Immigrant families are afraid to go to work, to show up to school, to drop off their children, and to even go to the local grocery store. These are our neighbors, these are our co-workers and our friends. They are the backbone of our economy, especially in the agricultural sector, where 75% of the workforce is immigrant labor. 75% of our workforce in California. California relies on federal funding for 22% of our budget. But Trump's proposed cuts threatens our schools, our healthcare system, and emergency services, all while handing tax break to the ultra-rich. And unlike Washington, we are required to balance our budget in California. So when there's instability in the federal level, in the crash markets, crashes in the stock market, California families and the services that you rely on, you pay that price. We pay that price. And so what do we do from here? We have to organize, we have to speak up, we have to vote. We cannot afford to be complicit in this moment. If your representative stands with Trump instead of with you, vote them out. Hold them accountable. Because our future does depend on it. And we're not going to take a backseat. We have to stand united, we have to stand together, we have to be focused, we have to be determined, because I know that we have the fight in us. Is that correct? Yes. Because we need to fight for our democracy every single day. And that is a promise that I make to you as your state senator. And it is an honor now for me to represent not just our community, but work with a colleague to do the good work in Washington, D.C. Someone that I got to know while I was the chair of the California Latino Legislative Caucus, while they were the chair of the Hispanic Caucus, Congressional Caucus. Allow me to introduce Congressmember Barragan, representing the 44th District. Congresswoman was elected in 2016 and currently serves as the co-chair of the House Democratic Steering and Policy Committee, as well as being a member of several other congressional committees and caucuses. Please help me and give her a warm CA 41 welcome.
Well, good evening. Thank you all for coming out tonight. My name is Congressmember Barragan. So what am I doing here? This is in my district, right? I represent the Port of Los Angeles. I represent San Pedro and a chunk of Long Beach and Southgate. On Monday night, I had a town hall in my district, which is in Southgate, California, about 95% Latino. Generally, we get about 50 people that will turn out for a town hall. We had almost 300 people turn out. And that's what we're seeing happening right now. And so we said, you know, every person, every constituent has the ability, or should have the ability, to hear from their congressperson. Have you all heard from your congressperson right here in the 41st district? No. That's why we partnered up with Senator Cervantes to say, hey, we want to make sure your constituents are heard. We want to make sure that constituents in the 41st district are heard. You know why? Because Ken Calvert is too afraid to hold an in-person town hall. And you're there to partner with a champion in the California legislature, a senator who, as mentioned, we got the opportunity to know each other better when I served as chair of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus in the last term, and she was a chair in the California legislature who's worked on things like maternal health, resources for veterans, clean air, and for partnering with me to hold this community conversation. I'm so grateful, and I want to also thank our host today, Yusuf, for this space and for giving us a place to have a community conversation. Because right now, let's give them all a round of applause. One of the things that people, we get a lot of calls in our office, and they say, can you please hold the town hall? I want to know what's going on in Washington. I want to know what you guys are doing to help stop this. And I want to know what we can do to help. And so that's part of what we're here today to do. So this week, House Democrats are going across the country into their districts, and some of us are going into other districts, to hold Medicaid Day of Action. What is that? It's a day of action that we did earlier this week to highlight the issue of Medicaid, the importance of Medicaid, to talk about what is at stake, what Republicans are doing, what they're not doing. And most of these days is what they're not doing. And that is they're not fighting for you. And they're not even listening to you. And so in a time where you have Republicans that have no spine right now, they've given up all their power to this administration. And that is just so unheard of. Right? There was a system of checks and balances put in place so that we checked each other, so that democracy would work. And right now, they are so afraid, they wait until Donald Trump will tell them what to do. But let's talk about today about some of these things that they're doing. Number one, Republican leadership has told their members not to hold town halls. You know why? Because what they're doing is not popular. Even in Republican districts, and we are in a Republican district right now, almost half of children are on Medicaid. Now, people say, well, Medicaid, what's Medicaid? Medicaid, we call it Medi-Cal here in California. And what it is health care. It's access to health care for people. Now, you might be low income and get Medicaid. You might be a disabled person that needs resources and you get Medicaid. And some people have said to me, well, Congresswoman, I'm not on Medicaid. And I don't know anybody on Medicaid. So why should I care about Medicaid? Well, let me tell you. Have any of you ever gone to an emergency room?
Yes.
Anybody here? And you have to wait like hours to be seen? That wait's only gonna get longer if there's cuts to Medicaid. Because less people are gonna have access to health care. Does anybody here know somebody in a nursing home?
Yes.
Yes. Nursing homes rely upon Medicaid dollars. And so if you cut Medicaid dollars, nursing homes may close down. If you have a loved one in a nursing home, they may be sent home because there won't be dollars. Now let's also talk about the people who take care of our loved ones in their homes. Now, in-home caregivers. There's something called IHHS, which is I call it the local program first. Many people don't know this. You can get up to 283 hours of care in your home under IHHS. But after you've exhausted those 283 hours, there's a federal program that kicks in. It's the federal equivalent, where you can get another 436 hours a month. Most people don't know this. Even beneficiaries don't know this. That is at stake here. So in-home caregiving is at stake, to keep your loved ones in their home. That is what's at stake. And the fact that Ken Calvert can't get up at a stage in person and tell people that he's okay with this, that's a coward. That's a coward to me. And so that's why we're here tonight. So tonight what we're going to do is we're going to also open up to questions, because I want to hear from you. I want to hear what you think, either what we should be doing or what we shouldn't be doing. Questions about what we are doing. I talked about Medicaid, and last week in Washington there was a vote. The vote was whether to adopt a budget resolution. It's like a framework of a budget you're going to put together. And I would say your values are what you put in a budget. That budget will require cuts in Medicaid, but it will also require cuts in food stamps. You might know it's EBT, maybe see the sign about EBT cards. These are people who get assistance to get groceries every month. And this is another area they're looking to cut. And so does anybody here know somebody who is on food stamps or gets some assistance? A lot of us. Sometimes it's families that have kids. We don't want them to go hungry. We want them to actually be fed before they go to school so they can concentrate on their schoolwork instead of being hungry.
That's right.
So these are the types of benefits that are at stake. So can you all guess how Ken Calvert voted on that vote last week? Do you think he did the right thing?
No.
Do you think he voted against that?
No.
Right, he did not. He did not. So you got a congressperson here who's not voting for the interest of his district, who's not voting in the interest of the people. And if you believe in helping people who need a little extra support by getting food stamps, he's not looking out for their interests. And I'm going to tell you, day in and day out, we hear from Republicans who say Medicaid matters to them too. Medicaid is not a Democratic issue or a Republican issue. It's a healthcare issue. It's an access issue. Everybody should have access to be able to see a provider, to see a doctor. In California, 4 in 10 children rely upon Medi-Cal. That's what we call it here, Medi-Cal. 6 in 10 people in nursing homes get Medicaid, and nearly 1 in 4 adults also do. Here in Ken Calvert's district, 230,000 people alone rely upon Medicaid. And get this, there's a couple Republicans who decided to sign a letter that went to Speaker Johnson to say, hey, we want to make sure that the most vulnerable people in Medicaid don't get their Medicaid deducted or at stake, and we don't want you to touch their Medicaid. 12 Republicans. Do you think Ken Calvert was one of the 12 Republicans that signed on to that letter?
No.
You betcha he was not. He decided not to get on the letter that said something so basic as saying, don't touch Medicaid for the most vulnerable people. That's the kind of congressperson that you have here. And that is the truth about what's going on. Now, you may hear some people say, wait a minute, the word Medicaid wasn't even in the budget. It wasn't in the resolution at all. Neither was the word taxes, and we know that they're looking to cut taxes for the top 1% and their wealthy billionaire friends. There is no way to find $880 billion in cuts. No way. The math does not add up without you touching Medicaid. So the next time somebody tries to tell you that we can do it, you know that they're not being honest with you. You know that they're not telling you the truth. So the last thing I want to touch upon, 2 quick things, Social Security for a second. And then we're going to turn it over to Senator if she has anything, and then we're going to open up to questions, okay? Social Security. Anybody here know somebody on Social Security? Exactly. Social Security is on the chopping block. They've already started. They have already started to cut Social Security staff. They've already started closing down Social Security offices. You know what that means? Have you tried to call Social Security recently?
Yes.
You be on the phone for hours and hours, and then somebody picks up the phone and then they hang up on you. So you can't even get through to somebody. They're cutting the jobs of the people who are supposed to be answering phones, processing paperwork. There are some people, the former administrator of Social Security has said that it's gotten so bad, there's going to start to be delays in checks that are going to people. And you know what the Trump administration official said? He said, well, my mom can do without her Social Security check. If she misses a check for a month, she's gonna be okay with it. I don't know about you, but my mom can't.
That's coming from a millionaire.
That's right, it's coming from a millionaire, it's coming from people who can afford it. But people in my district cannot. And I can tell you, people in this district cannot afford it either. My mom lives paycheck to paycheck. I pay her bills. She's 84 years old, she has Alzheimer's. She's in the final stages of Alzheimer's. So I have to wait for her Social Security check to arrive every month so I can pay her bills. And that's like most people that we hear from. They say, Congresswoman, I can't afford this. And let me tell you, when I'm going to vote in the Congress, it's not just voting for my district. You vote for the national interest, you should vote for everybody.
Yes.
Okay, we have to talk about tariffs. I don't like the word tariffs. It's really a tax on the American people. Okay, that's really what it is, it's a tax on the American people. Have any of you started seeing your prices go down at the grocery stores yet?
No.
Didn't the president say he was gonna do that on day one when he got elected?
He's a liar.
That's right, he's a liar. He is a liar. By the way, we have little buttons outside that say liar, liar. A button that I like to wear in Washington. And I like to see my Republican colleagues see it. And they look at it and they kind of laugh at it. I think in the back of their mind they know it's true. Right? So, we have not seen prices go down. As a matter of fact, everything that this president has done, the impact has been the opposite. Prices are going up. They're not coming down. And they've gone as far as to say, it's okay. People are gonna feel some pain. It's gonna be okay. People are okay with the pain. We're not okay. And that's not what people voted for. And so House Democrats have been fighting, number one, to get our power back on tariffs. Because, you know, there was a little provision in one of the bills that says Congress doesn't need to vote on tariffs. We're just gonna basically give our power up to the president. How insanely crazy is that? You know why they're doing that? Because they're afraid. They don't want to take a vote that's going to be against Donald Trump. Because they're all deathly afraid of him. I can tell you behind the scenes, I got Republicans that'll come to me and they'll whisper and they'll say like, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I'm with you. I'd say, well, how come you don't say anything? How come you don't stand up for your constituents? Well, it's my team. I can't say anything. It's my team.
Yeah.
And you know the thing they're afraid of? They're afraid of Donald Trump. Turning to Elon Musk. And saying, I don't like this person. Go spend your money. There are millions of dollars to vote in that office in primary.
Yes.
And that is a real truth and a real fear that people have right now. So those are just some of the very big issues. Of course, you all know you're experiencing it. Number one, I want to ask you to share your story with me. I usually say call your congressperson to share your story, but your congressperson that probably doesn't care about the story. Right? But if you call me, I'm going to share your story about your impacts right here in the 41st district. Because I think the American people should hear your story, and I think that these stories should be told on the House floor as part of speeches. And so that I can call them out on the House floor, at his place of work, so I can say, look, even though you didn't show up to your town halls, I did, and let me tell you the stories of the people and how they're going to be impacted. There is nothing more powerful than the story of constituents being told, the harms and the impacts. And I gotta tell you, if a member of Congress told a story about my constituent on the House floor, I would be utterly embarrassed. And I would be like, who is that constituent? Somebody pick up the phone and call and arrange a call. What can we do, right? So are you with me? Should we do this?
Yeah.
Yes, let's call them out. Let's call them out and let's do this. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna turn it over to see if the senator has anything more she wants to add. She touched about immigration. We talk more about immigration. Hot topic right now. A lot is at stake. U.S. citizens too. This isn't just about undocumented folks, guys. The president just said, well, maybe we should send U.S. citizens to other countries to go to prison. I mean, this is the most unconstitutional, unhinged thing And if we don't speak up and we don't speak out and we don't have an uprising in this country, then people are gonna say, you see, people think it's okay. Nobody cares about this.
Yeah.
People think it's all right. And we can't let that happen, right?
No.
We can't. Okay, so I'm looking forward to your questions and your comments. And Senator, if you have anything more you want to add.
There's only one thing I want to add, because we're talking about the impacts to Medicaid. And I'm going to tell you the direct impacts in CA 41 in Ken Calvert's district. 308,000 of his constituents would be impacted by cuts for Medicaid. 259,000 health coverage for workers, people with disabilities, children, and seniors. 121, they get food stamps through CalFresh. 40,000 new mothers getting formula through programs like WIC. How many of us know individuals or have used WIC ourselves? The majority of us. And 15,000 people receiving support to live in their homes through IHSS, as well as 1,695 foster youth that would see these impacts directly affecting them. So these are real issues affecting people every single day, your neighbors, your friends, your coworkers. But we will turn it back over. I know that we have a few questions that folks have for us this evening.
Okay, so what we did is we had a few people submit questions beforehand. So we're gonna start with those folks, and then we're gonna open it up to everybody else. Now, the big challenge is gonna be if I can find the questions. Okay. Jeff, let's see, is it Streetman? Sweetman? Is it Jeff? It's Sweetman?
No, that's why it's not.
From Corona, you live in Corona? Jeff, do we have a microphone for the audience? Do you want to stand up and ask your question? Okay, Jeff. Jeff, I have to ask you this. I have a question for you too, okay? I'm gonna start with my question, and then you can answer your question. I want you to pretend for a moment that I'm your Congress member, Ken Calvert. You know why? Because you deserve to be heard. So I want you to tell me what you would say to Ken Calvert if you were staying here. You know why? Because when I go see Ken Calvert in 2 weeks when I go back to the House, I'm gonna go up to him. I'm gonna tell him how to tell him on his district, and I'm gonna tell him, you know what? This is a message from your constituent. I'm gonna do that. All right? All right. Jeff, the floor is yours. Go ahead. Go ahead. You first.
Well, I would ask him, why don't you ever answer any of my emails? And I said over the past 5-6 years. He has not responded to one.
Wow.
That is insane. Okay, I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican, in my district, I represent everybody. And you send me an email or a letter, I'm gonna respond to it. You may not like what the response is because I may disagree with you on an issue, but I'm gonna respond to you. Or the way if you're a constituent in my district and you come to Washington and I know you're a constituent, I'm gonna meet with you. Or I'll do it in the district. I believe that you deserve to be heard. And I have to tell you, I'm gonna tell you this real quick story and I'll let you ask your question. One day when I was a young, freshman member of Congress, there was a snow day. So there was a 2-hour delay for our staff to come in because they had extra time to get to the Capitol. So I'm at the Capitol and the phone starts to ring. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna answer some of these calls. And I answered the call and I first say, Office of Congressmember Barragan, I didn't say who I was, okay? And this guy starts saying, I remember you with the Congresswoman and she's doing all this stuff. And I said, well, where do you live? And he said San Pedro. And I thought to myself, who is awake in San Pedro? Because of the 3-hour time difference. Who is awake at 7 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock? And as he's going on, I said, well, thank you for calling, sir. You're actually talking to the Congress member directly. And he was like, what? This is you? His tone changed. And he toned it down, and he just continued to tell me how he disagreed. And I just told him, I respect what you have to say. I disagree with you, and here's why. But that's what you do. That's this job. And if you don't have the ability to stand it and take it from constituents, you don't deserve to be in the job. Okay, Brad, I'm gonna send a message that you can answer your emails.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I even asked him, why don't you have a town hall? I got nothing.
Okay, so what's your question? What's your original question before I prompt you?
Yeah, you know, when you get my age, there's two things that happen. One is that you forget everything, and I can't remember the other.
Do you want me to read your question?
Actually, I can't remember my question.
Your question, or let me read your question, maybe I'll help trigger your memory here. How will you help protect Medicaid for my mother-in-law, wife, and I?
You know, my mother-in-law is 83 years old, and she depends on Medicaid. And if she doesn't have it, I'm afraid she's actually gonna pass away. And so we're definitely afraid of that happening. So we wanna know, what can we do?
Well, thank you for sharing your story, because as I mentioned as well, my mom's 84, and she relies on Medicaid. And I do believe that without it, she will have a much quicker demise, and that the services that she gets really helps. So I can understand, and I totally agree that we have to do everything we can to fight any cuts to Medicaid. How do we do it? First of all, just to remind everybody, House Democrats are in the minority. And the number one thing we have to do is show up to vote, okay? And then we gotta vote against it. But we need the people. The power is in the people. And the power is in you all. It's your organizing, it's your mobilizing, it's your speaking out, it's your protest. I usually tell people, you can go to a Republican district, but we are in a Republican district. Like, the people here need to call their offices. They need to have their voices heard. I gotta tell you, as a member of Congress, yes, call your congressperson. I look at my call log every day. I get a call log of every constituent that calls. And there is no doubt about it that it has an impact. Because at the end of the day, I'm looking to see what people care about. And I know in this district, people care about Medicaid. I know people care about Medicaid. We just have to have those people speak up and speak out. And we need to share the story, just like you did, of the impact to their offices. If they're not spending time answering the phone, they're spending time doing things that we don't want them to do, to be honest with you. Right? He just wrote an op-ed. Did you see his op-ed about Doge? He wrote an op-ed basically saying, I support Elon Musk, I support Doge. I mean, think about this for a moment. He thinks it's okay to go into the Treasury Department, get access to your Social Security, your bank account numbers. Why? Because he believes it's not really happening. Oh, that's not really happening, right? But he's okay with these cuts that are happening. When you know that the stories of the people who are impacted are veterans, of their federal workers, and they're coming after Medicaid. They are coming after Medicaid. So we gotta continue to fight on Medicaid. And please write your letters, continue to write your letters. I tell you, they may not respond to them now, but they can't ignore all the constituents that write letters. They just cannot do it. So if you live in the district, take the time to call, take the time to email, take the time to show up at the office, join a protest. And frankly, you gotta vote out elected officials who don't share your values and who don't vote your values. And I can say that here because this is a political event. And I'm not limited to what I'm gonna tell you. And I'm gonna tell you the truth. And the truth is that when you're a member of Congress and you're not showing up, you're not doing your work, you don't deserve the people. So we're gonna continue to fight. Please keep up the fight. Please make sure that you're doing all you can now. Public sentiment means everything. And trust me, do you remember during the first Trump administration when they were separating women and their children?
Yeah.
And there was this like national outcry, how could you be doing that? And they stopped doing it. And we do hear people say, well, nobody's really calling my office. Oh, well, nobody's really complaining. Well, people are okay with this. You have to help us make sure that people know we are not okay with this. And we only have so much power, but we need you all behind us. So are you with us?
Yes.
Okay, so the next time there's a protest, the next time there's a day of action, please go out there and do your part, because the media will then also cover it, elevate it, and talk about the impacts. And there's nothing more powerful, by the way, than the local media here talking about who's impacted by Medicaid. Okay, so Jeff, you got us started. And we have more questions. I'm gonna check with one more. Let's see, is Esther here? Esther Becerra? Esther's not here. Okay, so that means you all get to ask questions now. You all have any questions for us? By the way, okay, I see hands go. We're gonna get our microphone to come around. I would invite every one of you to tell me what you would tell your congressperson if your congressperson were here. I know it sounds funny, but it's not funny to me, actually. I actually am going to go tell this congressperson what his constituents said. And I'm gonna get a great deal of satisfaction in doing that.
I'll tell you. I'll tell you that.
Okay, where's the microphone at? Yes, what is your name, sir?
Josh,
Hi,
thank you,
Josh.
Senator, thank you, Congressman, for coming here. Well, our representative won't, so that's very important, I appreciate that. What I'm concerned about is we see students being sent out of this country. They're getting rounded up on the streets. We have this Maryland man who's been sent illegally to El Salvador. What can we do? Because, as you said, it'll come for us next. It's a slippery slope. And when Trump thinks he can get away with this, then it'll be, oh, who disagrees with me on this topic and who his enemies are. And so what can we do in DC and even here locally so we can stand up and say this is not acceptable and we're not going to take it?
Okay.
Okay.
You can weigh in and I'll.
Okay, so I'll start and then she'll weigh in. So number one, Jamie Raskin is the chair of the the ranking member of the Judiciary Committee in the Congress. Super bright, common law professor, former. I came in with him, he grew my year, he's a dear friend of mine. So he's leading efforts to work together with litigation groups to make sure, we're working closely to use the court system. Where there's an opportunity for members to have standing who are filing suits for joint advocacy groups. So there's a legislative part of it. That's the litigation side of it. The legislative part of it is a little more challenging, okay? The legislative side is when you try to pass a bill or you try to get something into a piece of legislation. Right now, that's a hot topic that most people don't want to touch. Republicans in particular. So that vehicle is probably a little more challenging right now. And this is where I'm going to keep telling you the same thing over and over tonight. The power of the people and uprising is going to make the difference. Now, the real test is going to come with the Supreme Court justice. And it's going to come to the Chief Justice. Because we know that this president is defying a Supreme Court ruling that went 9-0. I mean, how many rulings go 9-0 these days? Like, not very many. Okay, now what the administration has done is they've interpreted it their way, and the district judge is trying to, I think right now, set the record by going back and forth, asking for what have you done to set the record to show basically they're doing nothing to follow the order, right? And so I think that's going to set it up, but this is the level of a constitutional crisis where we have to have everybody speaking out. And you can't say like, well, I don't know the person, so I'm not gonna say anything. Because it could be your children. It could be your neighbor, it could be your friend. We're talking about students. We're talking about people who've been in this country and who courts have said you could be here legally. Okay, don't believe the lies. Kilmar Abrego was not a criminal. He is not a criminal. There was no court that made that finding. There was no court. As a matter of fact, you know what the court said in the United States? They said that if he was returned, it was more likely than not that he would be killed and put in danger. And therefore, you have the ability to stay here. He's married to a U.S. citizen. He's got children. They're U.S. citizens. This is their way to break up families. This is their way to target people who they don't like, who don't agree with them, and that's where the students come into play. This is a real danger, and this is why I'm so glad that Harvard was willing to stand up. He's willing to say, no, we're not going to let you do this to us. I'm a little disappointed in the law firms, by the way, who got a deal with this guy, and now we're going to give him pro bono hours? What? Like the pro bono hours should be going to these innocent people that they're targeting, and these students, and these citizens. So, the Congressional Hispanic Caucus last week had a press conference to highlight the issue of all standing together, bringing in other members, because it's not only a Hispanic Caucus issue. This is, as you mentioned, an issue for all of us. Today we saw Senator Van Hollen get on a plane and go to El Salvador. You know what one of my fears is? One of my fears is, if you had a contingency of members of Congress go to El Salvador, and that president, a dictator, Trump loves dictators because he wants to be one. then it would put us in jail, and Trump would just say, well, that's their fault, just leave them there. And that is a real fear. And any other time, I would say that was absurd. And this time, I think it's a real possibility. But we gotta continue to stand up, we gotta continue to speak out. We can't be intimidated and bullied. And we know he's trying to do that with the media right now too. If they're not reporting things how they want, they're threatening to take away their license. And we need the press to stand with us too. They gotta continue to tell the truth and the news, and we gotta stand with it, and we got to make sure we do that. Because there is so much at stake. This is no time to be silent, guys. This is no time to say, I don't have time right now, I gotta go to work. You can work and then you make sure you find time to stand with your neighbors and your friends. And this district is at the heart of where you can make a change. Because if we get the House back, we have the power to subpoena cabinet secretaries to call them in and say, what the hell are you doing and how are you spending the money? We can't do that right now. We have the power and the control over the budget. We can say we're not going to fund those efforts. We're not going to fund this, we're not going to fund that. Right? We can take the money away from all the illegal deportations. And let me say one thing right now. If you're a convicted, violent criminal, we all agree you should be deported. That is not controversial. But that is not what's happening. There's no due process going on, exactly. And that is a huge risk for the American people. So I'm going to turn it over to Senator.
I want to hear more from the audience.
Okay. So I see some hands over here. I see lots of hands. This is good. I like questions. I like participation. I'm going to shorten my answers though, because we get to everybody.
I just have a question about the due process.
Okay.
They got away with shipping these guys away without due process.
He was abducted.
Did the judge rule on that part, that you can't send people out of the country now without due process?
And that is exactly what the Supreme Court said. And by the way, if you did follow this case, the government lawyer, when was asked by the judge, like the grounds for why he was deported, the government lawyer told the truth to the judge and said basically there was no grounds. Okay, they fired that lawyer, by the way, he worked for the government. And then basically the judge said, you gotta bring him back. Right? Because you're right, he was abducted in the secret of night, had no due process, was totally entitled, and the Supreme Court has said that. People are entitled to due process. So this is why it's so important, and this is why we gotta make sure we speak out, and this is why, let me tell you, the Supreme Court justices are following what's happening in this country. Right? They see the protests, they see the uprisings, they see the outrage, and we've gotta continue that. So please do that. Did I answer your question? Because I got lost in everything I was trying to tell you. We're good, okay. And what's your name?
My name is Lisa, I'm from Riverside.
Hi, Lisa.
I'm originally from Louisville, Kentucky, and I grew up most of my life in southern Indiana. I ran the elections board there, and I'm a Democrat, so imagine that. I'm like,
Well, even if you're a Republican, we welcome everybody here today.
So, the reason I moved to California was because my husband and I sat in a hospital room, and the doctor told me I was dying. He told me that to live a little longer, move to a dry climate, and hopefully you'll live out the rest of what few years you have left breathing better.
Well, I'm glad you're here with us today.
I'm not stopping my fight. I've been an activist since I was 13 years old. When a man told me I could do something, I told him why.
That's right, you tell them.
So, I've been at all these protests. I have been to places. This is actually my first time home because I didn't know about it until last minute. I've been in politics or involved in politics since I was 13. I started activism in women's rights, civil rights, and human rights. So I know about everything that's going on. I stay up when my husband says I'm obsessed. I was like, well, usually you are when everything's been taken away from you. So, sorry, I wrote it down.
That's okay.
Sometimes my brain doesn't work so well with some of my medications. So, we know that all Democrats' hands pretty much are tied at the moment. We also know that if we get to the 2026 midterms, Democrats will take back the House and the majority in the Senate and the majority in the White House.
I hope you're right about that. We gotta go do the work. Don't take it for granted. Go do the work.
I want to be around to see it. We want everything fixed and many held accountable for the crap they put us through and the crimes they have broken before Democrats start going down the bipartisan road, which they have done a lot of in the past, because they assume that the Republicans are going to work with them. Because once the Republicans are out of power, what do? Well, let's talk. Not anymore. Bipartisan doesn't work when only one side comes to the table. The GOP only wants bipartisanship when they are in power and they want something from us. This isn't a soap opera or a game show to us, but the Trump administration is treating it like one. They are inhumane and cruel. If this was any other dictator, and that's what he is, he would be in The Hague right now. I know we are all trying to swallow the shock that we have the nightmare that we have in the White House, that we have defeated multiple times in our history. Why people believe it, I don't know, but they did, and here we are. We want GOP members, White House personnel, staff, Trump cabinet members, Heritage Foundation members, Doge tweens, the entire judicial members, including the Supreme Court, and all of the Democratic members who might have sided and or profited from our misery to be impeached, removed, and indicted for treason. The espionage act of crimes against humanity. I went back to college. I'm graduating this spring. I am administering administration of justice, concentrating on law and statutes, especially federal.
We have a lot of questions. You want to get to the questions?
Yes.
Right, so we gotta make sure we get to them.
Okay. The question is, the Marshal Service is required to follow their oath and procedures and arrest anyone who defies a court order, even the president. Or, I'm talking about King Calvert and the Republicans. Are you going to demand them to do their jobs and arrest him? We've been accused of being paid to protest, and I wish that we were, regardless of NPS. However, is getting paid to protest any different than paying someone for their vote? Never mind, I know that answer. This is for King Calvert voting. It's not illegal to protest. Are you people going to arrest Elon Musk and Doge and freeze their assets for violating our constitutional rights and stealing our data? And for the final one, for the market manipulation and insider trading scam of last week. You profited from it, and what are you going to do about it? We want to know so we can see those people in 2026.
So we're gonna take all your questions and we're gonna ask Pat Calvert those questions. I can guarantee you though, he's already said he's standing with Elon Musk, because it's in writing, and that's the next part. But we will take your questions back. Thank you for standing up, for speaking out, for everything you do, for not giving up the fight. Hi, what is your name?
My name is Tammy Frieder, and I live in Eastville, which is part of 41. And unfortunately, I've been represented by Ken Calvert for over 20 years.
I'm so sorry.
I have made his life literally miserable the entire time. And this is not directed at you personally, but Congress, the Democrats in Congress, and the Democrats in the Senate. We are literally out on the streets every weekend. We are at Ken Calvert's office. I took 20 people to Ken Calvert's office. I did follow-up after follow-up after follow-up, and of course, didn't answer our, when he finally did, I had to go to the chief of staff. Didn't answer our questions properly, lies, whatever, but we did it. We're gonna continue to do it. I just feel a little frustrated that our members, mainly the Senate, would even consider voting anyway with the Republicans and advancing our nation. It's ridiculous. They're on the streets, we're risking our lives. We want to see people in Congress like John Lewis. We want to see people make good trouble and protect us. So again, I am so thrilled that you decided to come here. We feel like for one night we have representation. So thank you.
I will tell you, I was a little worried. I was a little worried because I've never been into a Republican district doing town hall. And I said, are they gonna throw tomatoes at me? Are they gonna yell at me? But it's okay though, if that was the case, because I continue. And I can listen to people who have different points of view. Thank you for your advocacy, thank you for what you're doing, thank you for showing up. And maybe we can get to 20 people, to go to 40, to go to 60, to go to 80, and grow those numbers of the protests in the office, because I can tell you, every time there's a protest in my office, I hear about it. And the first thing I say is, what can we do? Who do we need to go talk to? Set up a meeting with them. Because I firmly believe that if you are gonna take time and you're a constituent to come and protest my office, that you deserve my time. Again, even if you disagree with me. So I will continue to push and make sure that I can do what I can, and that is convey your thoughts and your message to the Congress member, even though you won't come here today. I totally understand your frustration. House Democrats stood firm on that little bill with the Senate. Democrats did not, totally disagree with that decision. For me, in that bill was the power to give away your authority on tariffs. In that bill was basically saying, I'm gonna allow you for 6 more months to do all the harm you're doing to all these agencies, and we're gonna sign off on that. And for me, that was not okay, and that was not good. And I'm proud that we at least have a line on the House side, but now we gotta unite, we gotta move together, because we can't do this if we're divided. We've got to be united, and we've got to be together, and that's what we gotta focus on. We gotta focus on the people we need out to replace, to get the power back as well in the House. And remember, our senator is here, she's more than happy to help answer questions too.
Hi, good evening, thank you for representing us here today.
Thank you for being here.
I'm sorry, my voice is a little shaky, I'm a little nervous. I would say to Ken Calvert that I feel like our cities, just all of our cities around in California are filled with fear and hatred and division and lies, and he needs to do something to at least answer emails or phone calls to try and help us reunite the folks. But my question is about education. What have you heard at all about the cuts to the Department of Education and how it might be affecting our school district, our local school district? And are they talking about it at your level? And should we be hearing about it from our own school district? Because I don't hear anything from the school district about this, the education cuts.
Okay, so this is a perfect question for the senator. Let me tell you why. Because they're saying that the reason that they're going to eliminate the Department of Education, which by the way, you're gonna be the next question. I.C.E, you're gonna be the next one. So they're saying that the reason they're doing this is because they're going to give the power back to the states. So our senator can talk about whether they have any power to states, because it's crazy.
So yes, as it relates to education, I'm going to walk you through some very critical numbers here, because this is a discussion that we're having in the Senate every single week. California is at risk of losing $7.9 billion in K-12 funding alone, K-12 funding. What does that include? That includes $2.7 billion for school meals through the U.S. Department of Agriculture. That includes $2.4 billion in federal Title I funding for low-income students. That includes $1.5 billion for special education, and special education has already been taking a hit for a number of years because of the federal government. We also have $232 million federal Title II funding programs for teachers and administrators. We have enrichment programs, $157 million of enrichment programs that we are at risk of losing, $77 million for career technical education, so many career tech programs that we so value and believe in, as well as $130 million for migrant education. The list goes on. And so we are in discussions of what we are going to do as a state to potentially backfill some of these dollars, but we can't backfill every single thing that we're going to see cut. That is the reality. So we are in a deficit, and we're not going to get out of this for a few years. And so we really have to figure out what every school district needs are, because they vary depending on what they get, the type of federal money they get, and the programs they offer to students. And so I'm having direct conversations with Roanoke Unified, Perugia Unified, Riverside Unified, Alberta Unified, Moreno Valley Unified, San Jacinto Unified. I'm meeting with every superintendent and administrator, so I understand the direct effects for our families, for our teachers, and that is how what a representative should be doing in every community that they represent. So that is my answer to the education budget.
Thank you. I'm going to add a couple things to that. So they said they want to return the power to the states. The power is already in the states. Okay? What the federal government does for education, a big focus is to protect the vulnerable students. Okay? And they want to take that away. The big focus is also something called the I.C.E. funding. Has anybody ever heard of an IEP in school? An individualized education plan. What it is, and those who raise your hand know about it, but what it is basically in a school, you may have a student that needs a little extra support, a little extra help, so maybe some tutoring, some resources, and that's what IEP does. It gives a student extra support. So this is what's at stake with the federal government saying we're going to dismantle the Department of Education. I gotta tell you, the Department of Education was already in trouble when they put Linda McMahon in there. I mean, this is a woman who doesn't even know the difference between AI and A1 songs, really. Okay, this is a woman that doesn't even know what IDEA is. And she's running the agency that's supposed to allocate the money and supposed to make sure it's working. It is so absurd. This is the most unqualified cabinet we have ever had.
Ever.
It's just like who your friends are, how much money you give it. It is, well, I can go on. But there are conversations happening. You had members of Congress that actually went to the Department of Education, demanding to get in, demanding to see the secretary and to get answers. And of course, they're not letting any of us come in. They actually called DHS officials on us and called security on members of Congress. And that is what they're doing. Right? They're even threatening members of Congress who are holding Know Your Rights clinics and threatening to come after them. Right? So this is real. Everybody is a target right now. Even members of Congress by this administration are a target right now. Just Attorney General New York, I don't know if you heard, they're going to open an investigation into her. Right? I mean, this is real. So the Department of Education members are talking. We have had some Republicans, like two, that are willing to say you cannot eliminate the Department of Education without a piece of legislation. But you know what he's doing? He's just scraping everything he can to the ground to the point where it doesn't function anyways. And what's at stake is also Pell Grants, higher education. They say they're going to move it to another department, but they're firing everybody anyway. So you're basically not having the people there to process applications, to get the money out there to do the work. So it's a real problem and concern. We have fought back against it. We've had some Republicans, say that publicly we need legislation, but they haven't had the spine to speak up and say, no, you should not be doing this, stop what you're doing. So we're gonna continue that fight. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Senator Cervantes. Thank you, Congresswoman Barragan, for allowing this opportunity for us to gather. I'm Nancy, resident of Corona. Senator Cervantes has worked with my children, thank you, over the years. My passion lies in advocacy for students. Now, with my kids in higher education, achieving that dream. I want to know, I'd like you to highlight my concern. We're talking about the state. You just highlighted that the state, it's in their power. We're talking about Pell Grants. My kids have gone to school, have worked their tails off to, get to that next level. What are we gonna do to help them when we're slashing? You see regions, talking to Cal States, that's great, but if you're in a private school, it's a different ballgame. I wanna make sure that my voice is heard, advocating for those kids that have worked so hard to finally get to those four-year universities. They want to be able to finish. I don't want them completely indebted. Now, I'm a very proud mom. I've got 2 graduates. I've got one going to UCR in the fall, I've got one graduating SC fight on. I'm very proud of him. He graduates, no loans, full academic right. I want my other kid to have that. As long as he works to stay on, I want that for him. I don't want those Pell Grants taken away. I want to see that happen. I want someone talking for them. We can't look at these kids, these future leaders, tell them, hey, you work hard, you're gonna get that opportunity. I want equal and equitable access for all kids, not just kids that look like me. And when are we going to fight for those kids? I don't see it happening anytime soon. Those financial aid packages are coming in. They don't look like they did last year, and it's only gonna get worse. So I want you to listen. Thank you for listening. Calvert will never listen. But that's where my heart is, Serena, and you know it. I do this all the time. I just try to help in these schools, but I can't look at these kids and say, hey, yeah, work hard, you're gonna be able to get to, as long as you get those grades in, we're not helping them because schools are only getting more expensive. And so, put in a good word for us, and thank you.
Thank you, we'll do that. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Rachel Terry, and I live in Riverside. I'm also the political chair for UDW, which is the United
Thank you.
And I just have a question.
Can we use a microphone so we can all hear?
Okay, sorry about that.
Better, yes.
So I am a provider as well, and I take care of my husband here who slipped and fell and hurt his back. He's got a couple of back surgeries. So with the cuts to Medi-Cal in Calvert, what will you do for the IHSS recipients like myself that can't afford to go out the home and work outside of the home? If I leave my home, my husband's at risk of hurting himself. And he's better off with me than in a nursing home. So what will you do for families like mine that are dependent on this program, and we are funded through Medicare? So what are you supposed to do for the IHSS families that will suffer tremendously if we lose our funds to Medicare? And also, Sabrina, I would like to say thank you for your support on our bill, AB 283. And please prioritize this bill with your pro tem leadership. And thank you so much for all.
Well, thank you for what you do. I actually am an IHSS provider myself of my mother. And I'm an assistant too, so I appreciate the work that you all do. We're going to continue to fight to protect the federal funding for IHSS, in-home care, and all the caregivers. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I am going to make sure to go to Ken Calvert, and I'm going to say, Ken Calvert, I was in your district, and your constituent wants to know what you're going to do to protect IHSS, and I will partner with you to do that and make sure we protect them. What will you work on with me? And then I'll let you know what he says.
Hello, hi. My name is Oliver Arno. I work at a grocery store. I'm a union guy, and my should say everyone's great, especially for you two. Thank you for coming today. What can we all do to thwart the Project 2025? It's the most disgusting 900-page bullshit of a. He's nodding too. Like we hate it. Like they're attacking Sesame Street, and he's also attacking unions. I don't hear Ken Calvert speaking for any union member here, nor the education. So, what can we all do to just rise up and say no to Project 2025, even though we're living in this hellhole right now?
That's right. Well, let me see here. So I would say that this is the time where we cannot be complicit, right? We have to mobilize, we have to organize, we have to speak out, we have to fight your member of Congress. So this is the time where we lean in together. Because if if they try to divide any of this, that's how they make us weaker. So we need to stick up for every single one of your neighbors, and we need to speak out for them. For those voices who have always felt unheard of, and their stories untold, share their stories with their permission, right? We need to be able to elevate these issues because these are everyday working family issues. And to our union brothers and sisters that are in the room, thank you. Thank you for how you drive our economy every single day. And you showed up through the pandemic, especially our grocery store workers. And so there is a lot of work that we are doing in the state legislature to amplify the chaos that is coming out of the federal government and the Trump administration. But these are the realities, and we are sharing the facts. And so we need folks to not remain silent. We need you to show up to Ken Calvert's office. We need you to write him, because that is what a representative should do. When I used to represent the city of Norco, when I used to represent other portions of Corona, I didn't shy away because they were Republican leading. I went into the communities and I spoke to people who had different views than I do, because we had to build common ground to achieve all the great things that we have together. And so that is what we need to see from our representative. They need to hear from you. And that is what I will ask each of you to do.
Let me say one more thing. If you're not a part of the union, when the union is being attacked, we all gotta stick with them and we gotta stand with them. It's not just union effort. It's standing in solidarity with our union brothers and sisters. Because we can thank them for the 40-hour work week, and we can thank them for time off and overtime and a lot of other things. And by the way, this administration is going after collective bargaining. It is happening, they're going after it, so we all gotta stand up, not just if you're in a union, stand up for your brothers and sisters in the union and stand in solidarity with them. Thank you for your work.
Congressman, my name is Bill Pedrick. I'm with the I represent one of the employees still with the Riverside Community College District. This is what I want you to say to Ken Calvert. I've known the guy for years. Here's the deal. We were in his office in February, concerned about Pell Grants, concerned about the funding programs. And he said, in the course of 20 minutes, 9 times, people just need to calm down. Calm down. Everything's going to be fine. Give it 90 days. All right. So please remind him, 90 days has come as of April 20th, and things are not fine, and we are not going to calm down. Thank you.
This is the best town hall I've ever had, because I got to go deliver the message to another member about what their constituents are saying. So thank you, we're gonna make sure to do that. Pell Grant's so important. It's 90 days, it's been very hard and a lot of anxiety.
Hi, who are we gonna call when they cut off on Social Security? And I can't pay my rent. Do we call me? Or we can't call Albert, and it's on us. It's a problem. And those of us who are at the very bottom, I get housing assistance, and I get my food. I get $23 a month in food stamps. And that in itself is a sin, because I have housing, so I don't know if I qualify for one, why not the other. And I still have problems like this week, and having problems trying to find the money to pay for my car tax by the 20th, Easter Sunday. And it's just very difficult. But who do we call? I called for an hour when I thought you had to go in person to be identified. And I was left on the phone, but it was late. It was 5 o'clock. I knew they were closed. So I hung up. But who do we call?
You have to call Ken Calvert's office. You have to call. You have to say, I'm a constituent and I need constituent services and I need your help with Social Security. you gotta call her office. And make sure you get the name and the number of the person that you ask to speak to the district director and say, I'm a constituent. You don't need to say you're a Democrat, you don't need to say you're a Republican, you're a constituent. They have a job to have constituent services. We have everybody, I don't care, I won't ask you what your political affiliation is. You're just a constituent with a social security problem, help me fix this. And let me tell you, there was an Oklahoma Republican, they were gonna close his district down, his office down. And so many people called his office that he went to the president and he said, don't touch my social security office. And they didn't shut it down. Like this is when the president's picking winners and losers. Call your congressperson. If you don't get a response, if they're not helping you, call my office and we'll make sure that somebody helps you, even if it's us.
Thank you.
Well, that's my district, she's my constituent.
Hi, I actually don't have a question, but I want to tell everyone, get involved. There are Dem clubs, there's the Democrats of Greater Riverside. Here we have the Democrats of Corona Norco. Get involved. We do things, we meet people, it's important. And I just, on a side note, my daughter is a social worker for Riverside County. They were in Washington DC a month ago, where of course Ken Calvert could not meet with them. They were outside the door, who walks out, ignores them, goes down, Ken Calvert. So just make sure you get involved. There's so many ways, and it's what anybody wants to do. The dues are minimal and we have hardship waivers. So please, everybody, just find your local one.
My name is Kumari, and I'm going to tell you the story. No, I
We can't hear your story.
You don't hear me. I can speak so loud you won't believe it. I will tell you what my Sabrina did as an assembly member, because I used to go to Ken Calvert's office for transportation for the seniors I cared for. And she got for us when she became an assembly member. Remember? Yes. The transportation for seniors, and we got it. And also the funding for UCR, you got it. So we will have to talk to Ken Calvert, no matter how many times the product man doesn't speak to us, but you will get it done. Someday. I have full faith in you, Sabrina.
And I know we only have time for 2 more questions, so we're going to do rapid response. And so we'll go one right here, and then one on this side of the room. We have this woman here who has had her hand up for quite a while. Yes.
Okay, first I want to say that I appreciate you speaking in English, right? Because I watch all of the stuff. And to talk like a normal person matters. And so I don't necessarily need you to say this to him. I need you to say this to all of you guys, right? People don't know what you're talking about. Like you throw out all of this stuff, right? And you need to be talking to Democrats, Independents, and Republicans, right? We all need to understand what it is that you're talking about. Because sure, it makes sense. Like you guys should have been able to say no, but then you need to be able to communicate to the people. It's gonna hurt when you say no. It's going to hurt for the people who work for the government when you say no, when you don't sign it. But people need to understand that up front, right? They need to understand why you're doing it. Because we have a crazy man running the country, like a mob boss. And so I want to know how you're going to communicate, because there's an information vortex. Like, we're not hearing the same thing. And so it makes sense that they believe what they believe, because I've listened to what they believe. I saw somebody in the Oval Office tell a bold-faced lie, right? So my question to all of you is how are you going to get out the truth to the people who matter too? Because it doesn't matter, we're just preaching to the choir. Like we're all on the same page in here for the most part, right? People who don't know the truth need to hear it. And I want to know what you guys are going to do to get it out so that the other people are hearing it too.
First of all, we invite Democrats and Republicans to this town hall because we want to hear from Republicans. Because I firmly believe they're going to not be happy about the cuts, and they're going to also want the Congress member to fight for the things that we believe in, which is Medicaid and Social Security and Medicare. So we invited them. I can't make people turn out. But what we can do is we can go on media that invites us to tell the truth, to combat the misinformation, the disinformation. But you know what you got to do at home too? It happens in our own families. Somebody in your family will text you something and say, is this true? And then they send you like a TikTok video that's just spewing the misinformation from the other side. Like, oh, they're not gonna really touch Medicaid. And we gotta be the people to say, that's not true, and here's the truth. Because if we're not doing it all in family, we're letting it spread. So do your part at home. We need to do our part and speak it in plain English. Get it on media, go in every news outlet that will call us and allow us, including Fox News. So we gotta continue to do that. Thank you. And show up in Republican districts.
And I do want to acknowledge that, yes, we do have a messaging challenge. We've had that for quite a while, and we are working hard at that in Sacramento. There is a disconnect from the work that's being done there to what translates down here, and we do need to talk in different language, and I understand that.
Everyday Americans, everybody is an everyday American.
We're working class families, and so it's important that we recognize the hard-working families that live in our region, and we talk about the issues that matter to them, right? And we have to get to the bread and butter issues that are impacting your day in and day out life. Absolutely.
Sabrina, could I just interrupt for a second?
Yes.
Because it's so on point. The thing about it is that everybody wants one thing, and that is for Trump to be taken care of and made accountable for his actions. After that, 34 felony counts that he's been found guilty for. Americans don't want a criminal as a president. The Constitution recognizes that he shouldn't be the president. So what we need to hear, and what everybody commonly wants to hear, is what is our representatives in Congress, the assembly level, the city level, doing to help take out the president. There's only one way, and that's impeachment. Again, the third way. But, so it's corruption at the core of everything. We need to solve corruption. Censor. So thank you for listening, but we want you guys that are representing us to, when you have your town meetings, just tell us, what are you doing to get a step closer to impeachment? That needs to be coming. If you look at every protest that's been out there, there's hundreds of thousands of people. How many more is it gonna take to say that we don't want him as a president and leave him out because he's already a criminal?
We have one more question right here.
I just want to let everybody know that Ken Calvert is actually speaking on April 23rd for the Chamber of Commerce at Eagleland Golf Course. That's a long road, and it's going to be a perfect place for everybody to line up with protest signs.
There you go.
Can I say something to that? We need to get all the small businesses to show up to that and to say how these tariffs, which is a tax on the American people, is hurting the small businesses. Because there's small businesses, they say they're gonna go under and they can't absorb this and we're not gonna pass on the consumer. We need everybody we can to get the small businesses to turn out and do that. Let me just say one thing on the impeachment. And actually, I'm gonna say something you're not gonna like. But you know what, I'm all about telling the truth. And I'm about being front, and I tell people what they don't want to hear sometimes. This country elected this president.
Yes.
Okay, they elected him, and they knew he was a criminal. They knew he was a felon. They knew he was all these type of things, and they still elected him.
They didn't care.
Okay, so let's be real about that. Let's be real about that for a minute, because we need to be in power to even start impeachment. Okay, we can talk all day about impeaching the president, but if you don't have a majority of Democrats, by the way, there's gonna be a Senate, a trial in the Senate. So trust me, I understand what you're saying, and there are so many people that want it done. But we do gotta recognize, he was elected, the Supreme Court has already weighed in, and this is a person that we have to collectively stand together and fight. We can't be in despair, we can't lose hope, we've gotta fight, and we've gotta fight together, we gotta stand up together, and that's what we gotta do, and that's why we're here together, and we're gonna stand together to make sure that we can take. Thank you.
And don't forget, we speak up, we organize, and we vote. We vote. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. My office is always able to answer any questions and meet you where you're at. Thank you.